Is living with bipolar disorder hopeless? Is there any hope for you if you've been diagnosed with bipolar disorder? You may have been searching terms like, what is bipolar disorder? Do I really have bipolar disorder? And when you look up these search terms, you can really start to feel hopeless. Your search results look like this. You're doomed. Medicating bipolar disorder is complicated. You'll need years of counseling. If you aren't careful, you can fall into a deep vat of false information that will convince you that your case is hopeless. If you're here because you need to find a glimmer of hope in all of this, and maybe you're even looking for some solutions, well then this is the video for you. Hello there. I'm Staci Rivera, and this channel is all about empowering champions to create more peace and joy in their life. First, I want to call out and address the top reasons that you're starting to feel hopeless. And spoilers!
Spoilers.
These are myths. They're not even true. The number one reason that you're starting to feel hopeless is because you have been told that you will always have bipolar disorder. Last year, something interesting happened with my son, and I'm going to have him tell you in his own words what happened.
So I was in health class, and I'm pretty sure we were discussing mental health. And so I went to our coach and told her that my mom had healed completely from anxiety and depression and bipolar disorder. And she just very quickly shut it down with, oh, it's not possible to heal. And I didn't say anything, but in my head I was like, oh, you're one of those people.
I don't even get upset about things like that anymore. And I understand where they're coming from. There is this incredibly strong dogma perpetrated by the medical community and our society as a whole that there is no cure. There is no hope for those that have been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Yet here's the thing. There is huge money in you staying stuck. This means that Big Pharma wins and makes a buttload of money, and the counselor wins because you'll need a lifetime membership to sit on the couch and stare at the pain club. But there isn't any money in sharing lifestyle changes with you that have the power to unlock the body's God-given ability to heal. Well, there is some money in it because, hi, that's what people pay me for. But Big Pharma ain't got time for that. And they make big, easy money by selling you a lie with their medications. And don't even get me started on bipolar disorder survival guides. When you see these, something in your heart should rise up that says, I don't want to survive, I want to thrive. It does start to feel hopeless when you're continually told that this is going to be a life sentence. You can start to feel like you'll never be rid of this, and then with a simple YouTube search, it'll yield hundreds of videos with titles like Living with Bipolar Disorder, and My Life with Bipolar Disorder, and How to Manage Bipolar Disorder. Sadly, most people that have been diagnosed with bipolar disorder have no idea that there is a way out. The idea that you will always have to endure bipolar disorder is a myth. It's possible to heal. It takes a very specific strategy, but it is possible. I hope that you can feel my conviction. I feel very passionate about this subject because I once believed the same lie that you've been told. When I reflect on my life, I realize that I started showing signs of bipolar disorder back in my late teens, but I didn't receive a diagnosis until I was in my 30s. I unfortunately figured this out the hard way, as many people do, when I landed myself a visit in the psych ward. And the medical system was very clear. This is bad. You will always need medication, and the most you can hope for is to manage this. Even though I followed the advice of my doctors and counselors and psychiatrists, I kept facing relapse. Relapse after relapse kept coming for me. And finally, I decided there had to be a better way. I decided that I trusted my Bible more than I trusted the medical system, and so I sought God for a plan and a method for healing. I used a holistic approach, an approach that addressed my emotional, physical, and spiritual health. When I say spiritual, I'm talking about my relationship with God based on the Bible. I'm not using it like in the weird woo crystal wearing kind of way. This changed everything and allowed me to heal completely, get off all my meds, and now I walk with adults who desire to get out of their prison and take control of their life again. I will share what your healing journey could look like, but first I want to cover another reason why living with bipolar disorder feels hopeless. Number 2, let me share a personal story. I've been involved in ministry for a very long time. Most often, I lead worship. I love to sing, and I've been known to write a song or two. The biggest concern for me when I was struggling with bipolar disorder was not the manic highs, but the depressive lows. And no amount of prayer or reading the Bible would break that depression. When I reached out to pastors or fellow ministers, they would always ask the same two questions. Are you praying? And are you reading your Bible? When faced with this, I felt like I didn't have enough faith, and I felt hopeless because the church didn't have answers or resources to help me. So all I could do was circle back to the medical community, and well, I already knew that wasn't working. The part that really got me fired up to fight was this. I know the enemy can't steal my salvation, but he was stealing my joy so that I would be a lousy and ineffective believer. The struggle with anxiety and depression and bipolar disorder was so pervasive and so consuming that I wasn't able to focus on the goals and the dreams that God had placed in my heart. Instead, all of my attention was given to just managing the problem. It felt hopeless, and I'm thankful the story didn't end there. Number 3. Actually, I really don't want to keep covering more reasons for your misery. As a coach, I like to focus on solutions. You already know how much living with this is defeating you. So let's discuss what is possible. I have developed a 3-phase framework that is effective and safe for getting off your psych medications. I go deeper into this framework in my book. You can find the link to get your own copy in the description below. And I'm going to cover the bird's eye overview for you now. Before we get started, I want to make sure that you understand, please always consult with your medical care provider before adjusting your daily psych medications. The official disclaimer looks something like this. I'm sharing what I've done and what those who have chosen to follow me by their own free will have accomplished in their life. This is not medical advice, and Staci Rivera is not providing individualized health advice, only offering information of general nature to help you in your quest for optimal health. In the event you use any of the information in this video for yourself, Staci Rivera and her company assume no responsibility for your actions. Thank you. Actually, from time to time, I get haters that have not listened to any of my content, and they say things like, hope is damaging, and it's dangerous to get off all your meds. Yeah, well, no one has ever been harmed by implementing growth strategies and biblical principles. There is a 3-phase framework that I've used and I guide our coaching clients through that allows them to get off their psych meds in a safe and effective manner. Now, why do I put the emphasis on getting off your psych meds? Because this is the marker. This is how you know. There are many people that get off their meds that are dealing with bipolar disorder that clearly there's problems, right? They wouldn't be in the category of being healed. The goal is to get off your psych meds and live relapse-free. When you put those two things together, now you can go, okay, I'm healed. So that's the goal. There are 3 phases, and they look like this. Heal, taper, impact. Again, those 3 phases, the first is heal first. You're going to use an emotional, physical, and spiritual approach, which I'll dive a little deeper into in just a moment here, in order to heal. And then once that's accomplished, and again, you are feeling well, all your markers look good, you're very stable, then you will taper off your medications under medical supervision. This is very important. You want to make sure your medical team is watching over you as you get off and wean off your medication. That part's very, very important, okay? There's also some things you'll need to do in that stage. And then once that's done, once you've healed, once you're off medications, you're going to move into the most exciting phase, which is begin impacting the lives of others. I'll talk more about that in a minute, but I just wanted to have you see the overarching view. What I really want to talk about today is simply the process of healing. So this is another framework that is nested within the premise of healing first. How do we actually heal? And so the broad overview, very briefly, again, you can check out the book if you want to get more into the strategy that we use, looks something like this. There's 3 things we need to consider. Emotional. That part's obvious. Well, it should be obvious, right? Most of the time we think of bipolar disorder as an emotional health concern. And that's correct. It is an emotional health concern. But it's also a spiritual health concern. This is really obvious when you consider that many people that are dealing with manic episodes and psychotic episodes as well, they wonder if they've actually been enlightened. So that's like a really obvious example of how this is also a spiritual concern. At any time you're dealing with any part of us, it's also a spiritual concern. So spiritual health is definitely related in this as well. And then of course, physical. And the physical side would be really where we hone in on brain chemistry. And what is so interesting about this approach, you can see how these 3 overlap. And so many times people will go to counseling where they're really only dealing with their emotional concerns, or they go and they pray, they read their Bible, and they're only dealing with the spiritual side of things, or they try to make things better by exercising. That would be just focusing on the physical side. But where you get the most impact, and again, like I've said in other videos, where even you can improve your ability to manage this better, is when you focus on this beautiful center right here. And this is really where Achieve Emotional Mastery, why our program has such amazing results. And again, we've had a proven strategy over and over again, helping people just like you overcome these issues, is because we do this overlap where we focus on emotional, spiritual, and physical health at the same time. And this is what unlocks everything. And so that part is so very, very important. We want to create abundant joy and unshakable peace. Those are our aims. And then on the physical side, this is all the things that we do physically that contribute to healthy brain chemistry. Brain chemistry is such a huge component and something, of course, that the church, oh, I know what it was. Oh my gosh, I'm being silly. Why am I on this diagram? I remember now. Maybe you should look at your notes. Stace, that's a great idea. Look at your notes. Just like before, we're going to address your emotional, physical, and spiritual health. So the emotional part, For the emotional part, you are very familiar with this. You probably have a bookshelf of resources that focus on the emotional health component of the problem that you're facing. And so this part you know. Now the physical side, essentially the problem here is that you've been mistaught. I hate to say it, but due to our medical community and also our culture as a whole, and also our culture, and also our culture as a whole. That is a really hard sentence to say. And also, our culture teaches us things that are incorrect about how to take care of ourselves physically that contribute to big problems with our that contribute to big problems with your brain chemistry, which is part of the reason why you're experiencing bipolar disorder. And then spiritually, this part is completely out of context. So you may have received some information about the spiritual side of things, but most of what you've learned is actually twisted. The Bible's kind of twisted up and it's taken out of context, or you're just given almost Band-Aid solutions with verses. Like, here, apply this verse, but you have no idea how to. Verses such as, cast all your anxieties upon Jesus. It's like, okay, but how do I do that? And so most of what you know spiritually is out of context and doesn't give you any traction. So again, you're going to need to use all of those strategies to heal first. And you're going to get to the place where you're doing well and you are now ready to come off your medications. You will then take a lot of data to your medical care provider and have them formulate a plan for weaning off your medications, all the while continuing to do the things that you did that brought healing so that you continue to be well. The thing about it is that I still continue to do the things that I did that allowed healing so that I stay safe, so that I stay well, so that I stay healthy, so that I stay rooted in joy and peace. And then again, you're going to move to the next stage. And this is the part that I want to talk to you about. Third phase, not the face, the phase. The third phase is impacting the lives of others. Oh, I totally expect that to be in the shoot now. Okay. What is really exciting for you is that if you've been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and that diagnosis is correct, okay, that's a topic for a different time, then you are probably very, very creative. And you're probably an innovator, which means that most likely you have been called by God to impact the lives of others on a much larger scale. So for you, it's even more important to get a handle on this, to heal completely, so you can step into your unfinished assignment without giving up sleep, without losing momentum to depression, or having your creativity dampened by psych meds. Oh, snap. I said that. All right. Well, we've covered a whole lot today. If you want to know what your doctor isn't telling you and how this is keeping you locked into bipolar disorder, you can catch this video right here, or somewhere on the screen.